Welcome everyone, this is David. Today I want to talk about Father Tryphon being cancelled by Ancient Faith Ministries. And this, I think, is quite an important development. And in context to what has happened in the last months to Ancient Faith Ministries and how divisive they have gone, how lower quality they have gone really over time, over the years, as I want to illustrate in this video. All of you, not all of you, but most of you are aware, most likely, that I'm not the biggest fan of Ancient Faith Ministries. But this is, to me, in my opinion, too much. And I think it warrants a video to warn people from Ancient Faith Ministries. I want to start by saying, first of all, I want to say two things before I start with this letter. Is that first, this is a warning against the divisiveness and other things that Ancient Faith Ministries is starting to develop. And the second thing is a potential apology to Father Tryphon, because this post was deleted. He made another post afterwards that is kind of related, but not really. And I can think of some reasons why he might have deleted this, but a lot of people already are aware of this letter. A lot of people have seen it already. I think it's important that someone talks about this, and boy, are there a lot of things to talk about. And the second thing I want to say, or is this the third? I don't remember. Is Father Tryphon, both in this letter and the new letter, points out that he's looking for new outlets to post his thoughts on pastoral issues regarding Orthodox Christianity and things like that. I'm not part of an outlet as of yet, but in the future, I do know of a possible outlet that might be coming in the future. And so I will be more than happy to facilitate such a thing. Having said all of that, let us begin. Father Tryphon starts this by stating that he has been dumped by Ancient Faith Ministries on the grounds that he has become too political. So that's the reasoning that was used. And he then starts to note that Ancient Faith Ministries was already on a downturn, and this really just confirms it. He then repeats on the too political claim, and he denies the idea that he was being too political. He states that his essays or his thoughts were not about politics, but about a call to repentance and the like. He used the term Judeo-Christian values. I disagree with this usage of the term. I think there's only Christian. There is no Judeo-Christian. There's only Christian. But I do agree with the paragraph and what he's trying to say here is that a lot of these things that he talks about is political in nature, but I think they're fundamentally about the faith as well. They're not like talking about policies or anything like that, but they are cultural and religious and spiritual issues that people are facing today. He then draws a parallel between pre-revolutionary Russia and today's America. And then he moves on to speak about how free speech is being eliminated and replaced with politically correct speech. And Ancient Faith Radio is really adopting this kind of view. And so he's not saying, free speech including blasphemy, he's not saying something like that, but rather he's pointing out that Ancient Faith is really starting to adopt this leftist, politically correct things to say. So if you're talking against injections, which I believe the last post he made was about the injections, you can't say that. You can speak against that, right? Those kinds of things. And then he ends this letter by saying that a lot of people already warned him. So it's not just him that taught these things, but a lot of people within his close circle taught that this organization was spewing progressive and liberal garbage ideals, so to speak. And he thought it will change. He says, I was wrong. This is not going to change. So a very strongly worded letter here. I definitely agree with a lot of this. And before I start to really review fully, and before we start to appreciate, there is a response to this by someone representing Ancient Faith Ministries. And he tries to explain why they made this decision. So you can see the rationale behind the decision. The main rationale is that he was being too political. He says Ancient Faith Ministries is not a platform for political commentary of whatever view, left, right, center. So we're not going to host that. The first thing I want to say is this is kind of inconsistent because some of their guests that they've hosted have talked about political stuff, such as BLM marches or injections. So I don't really believe that they are purely apolitical. I don't agree. I don't believe that's the case. I find it hard to believe. But the second thing, and I think this is a bigger problem, is that where do we draw the line, right? Where do we draw the line? I mean, uh, is abortion a political, topic? So should we not talk about abortion? Should we not talk about same-sex marriage? I mean, should we not have a conversation on these topics? Well, judging by Father Tryphon being kicked, I suppose that's the idea, is that you should not mention them at all. But many things that are political in nature are really fundamentally spiritual issues and pastoral issues. And this is what Father Tryphon really is talking about. If Father Tryphon was saying, oh, this political party is good, I like their foreign policy and blah blah blah, I don't think, yeah, I will agree with this. If they made this excuse, then I will believe it. But Father Tryphon is not saying any of these things. Father Tryphon is talking about spiritual issues that happen to be political. Should we just modify your speech because of that? Should an Orthodox outlet that's supposed to be representing us, supposed to be defending us, be telling, abbots and important people to modify their speech because they just don't want that kind of stuff? As I said, I find it very difficult to believe that this is the case. And another curious statement is that he says that we absolutely do not embrace any kind of attempts to alter or compromise the Orthodox Christian faith, including its moral teachings. Anyone who says differently is bearing false witness. I won't say as an organizational whole that is the case, but with certain members it is the case. And I think it's in the statement too. He says we are also making no comment on Father Tryphon's political views at all. As a ministry, we have no position on these political issues. As individual staff and contributors, we have a variety of them. Now, the problem is there are certain political views that are at odds with Orthodox Christian belief. And we do know that from history, and this is the other problem, is that we know of Ancient Faith Ministry's history, and it has a history of really accepting people whose ideals are fundamentally anti-Orthodox. I can show you many different arguments. They have even hosted heretics, even. But I don't want to go too deep into that. I think this article is good enough. Two particular persons that I want to highlight is Angela Dole Carson, here saying that she is pro-choice. And she is still an Ancient Faith contributor at this time. 3 of her books are being sold. I believe one of her podcasts is still being hosted on Ancient Faith Radio, in fact. And I don't think someone who's a pro-choicer should have their books sold by Ancient Faith bookstore. I don't think we should really accept that. Should we really accept something like that? I don't know. What do you guys think? You can talk about this in the comments below, what you think about this. But another one I want to highlight is Charlotte Riggle. Now, Charlotte Riggle is pure lavender mafia. She's even worse, in my opinion. She has wrote many different books that support the lavender mafia agenda, and these are books for children. And she was invited to speak at an Ancient Faith conference. As a matter of fact, the CEO of Ancient Faith has interviewed Charlotte Riggle. So I think you can understand why I find these reasonings very hard to believe. And as I said, we can talk more about this. There's a lot more examples that we can use, but I think this should be sufficient on its own. The last thing I want to talk about, and this is specifically referring to the person who wrote the response. Now, since he has shown the courtesy of not naming us, and really particularly my friend Jay Dyer and Father Peter, here's someone I consider as important and someone I look up to in a way. Since he has shown the courtesy of not naming them when he has attacked them publicly, I will also show him the courtesy of not naming him, as I am not attacking him, but rather pointing out the unprofessionalism that he has shown. And, if you're in the know, you know who this person is most likely. If you're not in the know, then I would just recommend not watching this segment of the video, because I don't think you're going to learn that much from it. Although it might still be relevant. I think it's relevant. And this is someone that represents really Ancient Faith Radio. He's someone that really represents Ancient Faith Radio. And this person for months, even for more than a year, but specifically for months, has been, in whatever ways he can, has been attacking really us, and without naming us, and just criticizing, claiming things about us that are really not true. But again, if I just talked about this will be pretty long. So I just want to give one explicit example, a very blatant example of clear unprofessionalism. And this is in his interview with Gospel Simplicity. This is after the hour mark, where he just out of the blue starts to attack Jay Dyer and Father Peter Heers. He questions the canonicity, and as I said, he doesn't name them, but both of them were previously Gospel Simplicity's guests too. So it's pretty disrespectful to the host as well. He's there to talk about Orthodox Christianity, but he spends time attacking two prominent Orthodox Christian apologists, I will say content creators. He questions the canonicity of Father Peter Heers, which is really strange because he says, no one knows who Father Peter Heers' bishop is. I know who his bishop is, actually. In fact, this was a topic of discussion on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and someone who's close to Father Peter Heers actually publicly disclosed who his bishop is. And I think even in spite of that, a lot of important, Jordanville Seminary considers, accepts Father Peter Heers. Many Atonite monks and many important Greek Orthodox Christian figures, I will say, considers Father Peter Heers to be legitimate. So this questioning of his canonicity is just purely unprofessional, and this is not something difficult to find, especially if you're clergy. I mean, if you treat him like a human being, you will eventually know who his bishop is. That's how I ended up knowing who his bishop is, right? Because I suppose I'm a trustable person. But really, aside from that, and I think this is more than just Father Peter Heers, it's more just that this person is causing division. He's really fostering division, and really Ancient Faith Ministries as a general is fostering division by accepting divisive people into their camps, by having their representatives attack Orthodox Christians who have converted many people, who have showed many people important aspects of the Orthodox Christian faith, who has really defended the Orthodox Christian faith. And to do this, again, on public platforms, where you're supposed to be talking about Orthodox Christianity, and you spend time attacking people you don't like and just accusing them of things, is simply unacceptable. It just makes us look very petty in front of Protestants and Roman Catholics, and it's an embarrassment to see this kind of attitude. I know there's a lot of things to say, but I don't want to disrespect this person. But I'm just genuinely shocked. I'm just genuinely shocked to see this kind of attitude. So I want to finalize this video with is, now, I don't want to drive any, again, factionalism or anything like that. I think I made that very clear. But at the same time, I find it very difficult to not have a position on whether you should, this is my recommendation. It's not something, I'm not saying something you have to do this. Anyone that knows me knows that I don't operate that way. I don't tell people what to do. And most, I recommend people what to do. Unless you're my friend, then I tell you what to do all the time. But my recommendation, I can't end this video without ultimately saying something. And what I want to say is, I don't want this to cause factionalist fights. I don't want this to cause any division. This is not my order, basically. I'm not saying I don't want any fights like this. I don't want people to go and attack anyone associated with Ancient Faith Radio. There's even Ancient Faith Radio has decent things, right? It has decent articles. It has decent people affiliated with it. Don't attack anyone just because they're affiliated with Ancient Faith Radio. That's especially important. Because they don't have anything to do with this. Those people don't have anything to do with this. We don't have any problem with them. Our problem is really the people who are, heading this, the people who fully represent Ancient Faith Ministries, and some of its contributors and some of its hosters. Those, the people who are driving divisiveness, those are the people who I think are the problem. And even the smallest fundamental problems can be very damaging. And in light of all of this that I have observed over the years, especially, my personal recommendation as a result, especially after Father Tryphon being cancelled by Ancient Faith Ministries, my personal recommendation is that I cannot, in good faith and good conscience, be neutral on this platform. My recommendation, I've said this a lot, is do not bother. Ignore them. Don't bother. Some of their people thrive on this. Their people thrive on these kind of disputes, interpersonal disputes, and all these things. Don't give them that. This is something that we shouldn't engage in. Don't give them any of that. But also don't give them any clicks. If you want to buy a book, don't buy it from Ancient Faith. Buy it from some other publisher. There are many great monasteries. If you want to read about something or learn about something, there are a lot of great content creators on YouTube, or they have blogs. You can, just doing a little bit of digging, can easily find those people. So that's basically what my recommendation will be. I think it is time that we start to distance ourselves from this platform slowly and surely, as long as it continues its divisive nature and really fundamentally its anti-orthodox lean. It's starting to lean in that direction in a lot of different ways, and I cannot in good conscience look at that and say, yeah, that's fine, let's have that. I don't think we should have that. As I said before, there are a lot of great content creators online, really good people that do what they do at times even better. So there are a lot of really good alternatives, and that's kind of what I want to end this with. Is this organization has really gone down. I mean, it was considered one of the main Orthodox organizations, and now it is kicking important people that are crucial in sending an Orthodox message. It is adopting people who are fundamentally anti-Orthodox, and it is getting into and its members, its representatives, are getting into personal disputes and making us look very bad in front of other heterodox, really heterodox Christians, really making us look bad. What I gave as an example from Gospel Simplicity is just one example. That's what I want to end my video with. If you think this video is important, please do share. If you agree with the message, like, and you can comment on your thoughts. As I said, don't start a flame war with AFR. That's not an Orthodox thing to do. We don't respond to divisiveness with divisiveness, but we respond to divisiveness by just walking away and refusing to associate. And that's what I think we should do. This is not factionalism. This is not a war or anything like that. It's just an organization that has taken a bad turn. So thank you for watching this, and I will see all of you in the next video. May God be with you all. And once again, thanks for watching.